The first thing my father did when he retired was to buy a sailboat. Growing up on the shores of Long Island, sailing became one of his passions in life. Now, while it's no secret how much I love the ocean waters, I much prefer the spiritual side of sailing. That quiet, reflective feeling of moving with the wind, the sun on my face, my eyes focused on the horizon of the endless sea of blue. My father would not have put it quite so poetically. He would have said my only usefulness as a sailor was to be a figurehead on the bow. While my sister is an excellent deckhand, able to hoist the jib and set the mainsail, not me. There's just too many of those lines in which to entangle my very klutzy feet. So I'm more than happy to simply plop myself on the bow, bask in the sun, and leave the technical parts of sailing to others. I also quickly learned once we started sailing that once you get back on dry land, there's a lot of work still needing to be done after a long day of sailing. Those sails need to be lowered and carefully folded. There's a lot of gear to be stowed away. And all those seemingly endless ropes and lines need to be secured without becoming all knotted together. There's certainly no hopping off the boat and heading to the 19th hole, as we golfers are quick to say. If owning a pleasure boat takes so much work, I can only imagine how grueling it is to be a commercial fisherman, even more so in Jesus' day. I think we can easily imagine how Simon and his fishing partners must have felt that morning when Jesus came strolling up and asked them to put out into the deep and let down their nets. Their energy spent, their muscles sore. No way would they have wanted to venture out again into those deep, dark, cold waters. And as exhausted as the disciples must have been physically, even greater must have been their level of frustration and their feelings of failure. For generations, their family had fished Lake Gennesaret, so they knew where to fish and the best time of day to let down their nets and haul in a great catch. Knowing they had gone fishing at the right time and at the right place, and dejected that a night's work ended in failure, we can hear their frustration in Simon's voice. Master, we've worked all night and caught nothing. It's pointless to try again. All they wanted to do was finish cleaning their nets, go home, eat, sleep, and try again tomorrow. Yet Jesus persists. Try again, but this time, go deeper. So Simon says, if you say so, we will let down the nets. Only a few days earlier, he had witnessed Jesus heal his mother-in-law. So although he hadn't yet earned his new name, Peter, the Rock of Faith, Simon had begun to trust in Jesus. And as we heard, when the disciples did what Jesus told them to do in the wrong place at the wrong time, to their amazement, they caught an abundance of fish. But that wasn't the real miracle of this story. The real miracle is what happened to Simon and those other disciples. That morning, they learned a valuable lesson. The catch was worth the risk of having to try one more time. When it comes to discipleship, failure is not an option. A lesson they were going to have to learn time and time again as they followed Jesus on that way of salvation. Especially on those other occasions when they felt discouraged and tired and frustrated, feeling as though they had expended all their material resources, as well as their physical and spiritual energy, only to have all their effort end in failure. What Jesus knew that the disciples didn't know was that there was fish waiting to be caught. If they were willing to venture out into deeper waters, do things differently from the way they've always been done before, to not fish like they had for generations, but to now go to where Jesus was directing them and to do what now Jesus was asking them to do. Jesus could hear and see Simon's frustration, but he wasn't about to let Simon use his fear of failure as an excuse to stop trying. Even Simon himself acknowledged that as sin. Yet rather than admonishing Simon, who again we notice he now called Simon Peter for the first time, to acknowledge that he was indeed filled with both fear and some faith. Instead of admonishing him, Jesus looks upon Simon Peter with compassion. Do not be afraid. You will catch people. And with that promise ringing in their ears, he and all the other followers of Jesus left what they had been doing for generations and followed him. When it comes to discipleship, failure is not an option. A lesson we as fishers of men and women need to remember, that the catch is worth the risk. To go and do what common sense tells us cannot be done, or what we've already convinced ourselves will not work, or to simply do what we have been doing for generations, only for futile efforts. When we are feeling frustrated, tired, discouraged, feeling as though all our efforts have ended in failure and are afraid to risk trying again, Jesus says to us, be not afraid. Put out into the deep. Venture into unfamiliar territory. Do something new and different. When it comes to discipleship, failure is not an option. You have ample resources. Use them. You have sufficient skills. Develop them. You have dreams. Follow them. You have gifts. Share them. You have faith that can move mountains. Trust yourselves. You are fishers of men and women. Follow me. May God give us the wisdom and the courage to put out into deep waters, because the catch is worth the risk.